Do you not agree that if we don't find these people soon, that we are at risk of a 9/11 or worse?
It's coming. Not only did 2 million known gotaways, 2 million people cross the border. We don't know who they are, where they came from. We don't know where they are now. This 2 million known gotaways scares the hell out of me. So I'm convinced something's coming unless we can find them.
Tough stuff from Tom Homan, but he knows whereof he speaks. Joining us now, Miranda Divine, Ace Fox News contributor and Ace New York Post columnist, and John Yoo, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Both of you, welcome. All right, Miranda, you know, I think anti-Semitism is getting worse, growing, but it's turned into terrorism. That's the thing I'm not sure people understand or acknowledge. Certainly the liberal media won't acknowledge it. It's getting worse, and it's turning into terrorism. And Tom Homan says there's a couple million people here. We don't know where they are, who they are. It's going to get worse. I mean, it's a horrible prognostication.
Well, I mean, it's the inevitable result of Biden's open border policy. Tulsi Gabbard has just said that the DNI had found 1,200 known terror suspects that crossed the border and were given asylum by the Biden administration. There were 8 ISIS-linked terrorists from Tajikistan who were arrested when they crossed the border last June. Remember, in January, we had in New Orleans and Bourbon Street, we had an ISIS-related terrorist suspect run over a whole lot of people and kill them. We had the attack on the 2 Israeli embassy workers last month, and now this. I think this country has just got to brace itself for what was always going to happen when Biden left the border wide open and did nothing about vetting people from all sorts of suspect countries coming over here. And Tom Homan, we're now trying to put the genie back in the bottle.
John Yoo, I think a lot of people are in denial about this, but the major institutions, we talk a lot about the elite colleges, but it's not just the elite colleges, the major institutions fostering anti-Semitism. I think the progenitor, I've said this a million times, was Biden's push for DEI. I think that led to it. It's all violation of civil rights acts and so forth. But the terrorists, these are profoundly anti-American as well as anti-Israel or anti-Semitic stuff. And I don't know what to do about it exactly, but something's got to be done.
I agree with your diagnosis, Larry. We can talk about what should happen immediately in this investigation. This guy, for example, should never see the light of day, should be subjected to the death penalty. In the medium term, I was at the Justice Department in the days after 9/11. We got to take the FBI and flood the zone. Take FBI agents off of investigating moms who show up at school board meetings or conservative Catholic churches. Flood the zone, work these communities. These communities don't want people like this living amongst them either. Let's go down, crack down on these extremists in immigrant communities who might be causing this kind of terror. But then the larger problem is we have to change the culture. That's your point, Larry. The roots of all of this anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic, anti-American thought are our universities. Look, I work at Berkeley. I hear this stuff all the time. I mean, for years, decades and decades. But look, Trump is right to say we're going to cut off federal funding to universities that allow anti-Semitic culture, to allow attacks on Jews to happen. But you're right, Larry, it's not just universities. It's the media, it's big business, it's rife in a lot of our institutions.
There's a certain tolerance for it, which has made it almost okay to have a point of view which is anti-Semitic, which I find totally un-American. But also, we know these terrorist attacks on Jewish kids or demonstrations or whatever, peaceful demonstrations, I should say, this is against America. This is anti-American. Now, I want to go back, key point. You say the FBI must double down on this. Okay. Miranda, CNN, I want to use them, but they're not the only ones. CNN found its way, when this story broke, to criticize Kash Patel and the FBI for calling it a terrorist act, which it most certainly was.
Well, and of course, CNN, they had Andy McCabe on, the former disgraced FBI leader who was involved in the Russiagate collusion stuff. And you know, what John says is absolutely
And
right.
they had an Obama national security person. I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's the other one?
And both appalling, and both saying that the FBI just it should have, sat on its hands and done what it did during the Obama administration, during the Biden administration, lying and pretending that these dangers weren't entering the country. And what John said about the opportunity cost of the FBI going down the DEI route, going down the tracking Catholics and parents at school board meetings is spot on, because all that time was wasted when they could have been infiltrating and finding out where these terror suspects, where these seeds of terror were growing. And I think that, unfortunately, the FBI will be flying blind.
But you know, Kash Patel he'll do what he can. Dan Bongino over there. I mean, those are warriors.
Oh, they are.
Those are warriors.
But what a job they have to try and root out the wrongdoers in there, the political weaponizers, at the same time as trying to keep us all safe. I think, you know, and there may be bad actors that actually want some terrorist attack to happen just to make it blow up in Trump's face.
Even CNN put in quotes, peaceful pro-Israel. They've done this rally for years in Colorado.
Yeah.
Elderly people, okay?
It's just a walk.
Right. They wouldn't even... peaceful is in quotes, like we're not sure it was a peaceful rally. I mean, it's pretty grotesque, if you ask me. And I don't think CNN was the only one to challenge that.
Well, I just want to say, NBC called them, I have to look it up because it's such a bizarre framing, Gaza hostage awareness marches is what they called.
Gaza?
Instead of saying Jews, they called them Gaza hostage awareness marches.
John Yoo, different topic. The Biden autopen scandal. Okay, they're going to have this chap. Martin's going to look into it. I know he's a bulldog. How are they going to do this? You're going to tell me there's a case to be made, and I'm probably going to agree with that. I just can't figure out how they're going to get these people to testify, including Biden's wife, Jill.
The greater constitutional scandal is not over the autopen and how it works. It is, was the power of the president, who we all voted for and elected, and who we trust with enormous power. Larry, you worked in the White House. You know the enormous power the Constitution concentrates in that single person, so we get the benefits of energetic government. But was his power seized by his aides? Were decisions made that he did not even know of? That's a great constitutional scandal if it occurred. So how do you find out? Well, you find out, did people use this autopen to issue pardons or even to make other decisions like sign bills, like to approve appointments, on and on and on? Did they make these decisions and use autopen without President Biden's knowledge? How do you get that done? How do you figure that out? You have a congressional committee like Iran-Contra, like Watergate. You create a special counsel who has the right to issue subpoenas. If people don't obey them, the Justice Department throws them in jail. I have a nomination, Robert Hur. I hear he knows something about this subject already. Let's bring him on back and make him the special counsel. Because Congress,
very cool.
He already,
I love that Robert Hur.
He would hit the ground running.
15 seconds, but Robert Hur would be terrific. I never understood how that slipped through everything anyway at the time. You have a last point on Robert Hur?
Robert Hur, I agree, was just terrific, and he was so blackguarded and treated so poorly. And when you reread his report now, he wrote it so carefully.
I know.
He said, seems to be an elderly gentleman. I think he thought that Joe was foxing.
Did a pretty good job of the whole thing when you think about it. John Yoo, Miranda Divine, you're terrific. Thanks so much.